Hello, it's Dawn Michelle from Boho Tarot, and today I thought we'd take a look at my fairly small but growing Lenormand collection. So if you've watched some of my videos and followed my channel for the last couple of months, you might have heard that I am currently in the process of studying and learning Lenormand. So we'll actually talk about a couple of the books that I've been using at the end of this video. But to start with, I thought that we would take a look at some of the Lenormand decks that I have, because although I've done a deck collection, a series of deck collection videos, Lenormand is fairly new to me. I only had one Lenormand deck previously as of the beginning of this year, and that was the 1889 Lenormand, which we will see here in just a little bit. But as this is a fairly new thing for me, I thought that we would take a look at some of the Lenormand decks that I now have in my collection and do a little bit of an update, including these wonderful little decks. I have actually created my own Lenormand as well, and we'll do that one after we take a look at some of the other decks that I've purchased, and I'll fill you in a little bit more on that process and how that all went and came about. So let's go ahead and dive into the decks. So the first Lenormand that I actually purchased, and of course I made a little bag for it, is the 1889 Lenormand. And this one I've shown on my channel. I do still keep it in its little box, but if that starts to wear at all, I will end up setting the box aside, as I've done with most of my other decks, just because I don't want to ruin it. It's a beautiful little box. I love all the detail on the inside. But for now, it's still hanging out in the box, in the bag, just to kind of protect it as well. So this is, again, like I've said, a deck I've shown on my channel. It is just a gorgeous little Lenormand deck. It has a very vintage feel to it. It has, for the most part, everything is very recognizable. We have the number, we have the playing card association, and then, of course, the image in the center of the card. And for the most part, I have no trouble recognizing any of the images in this deck, although I am still learning my numbers in association with my images. But this one is just, it's a lovely Lenormand deck. It's beautifully produced. It has this wonderful matte gold gilding on the side and gorgeous backs. And yeah, it's your typical Lenormand size. I think that they might call this bridge size, but I could be wrong. As like I said, I'm still learning my Lenormand lingo. But it's just a gorgeous deck, and I absolutely love the colors, the color palette. I love the bits of texture on the sides of the cards, and you'll actually see that influence in my Lenormand deck, actually. And it's just a gorgeous deck to read with. Now, I have heard from many people, and I've found myself that as far as reading Lenormand goes, it doesn't really matter what's on the deck as long as it is something that is recognizable to you. So unlike tarot, where the artwork really plays a pretty big factor depending on how you read, on the interpretation of the card, in Lenormand, a fox is a fox is a fox. I think I've said this before, a book is a book is a book. You can, for the book, in some cases, look whether the book is open or closed. There are little variances like that, but for the most part, the cards are representative of themselves, regardless of really what is on the in the imagery and how it's depicted. So that's just a really interesting thing about Lenormand. Although coming from a tarot background, I do find that I am in particular drawn to decks with certain aesthetics, and I do like to pair them with my tarot now, and I'm working with pairing them with tarot and oracle to try and bring all those three elements together into one reading. And so the aesthetic really does kind of play a role for me, which is why I do have quite a few, so that I can pull in decks that aesthetically fit the reading that I'm trying to create, or the other decks that I'm working with, and sometimes just the time of year that it is. I'm finding that I'm also tending to be drawn to certain decks at certain times of the year. So that is the first Lenormand that I purchased, and that is the 1889 Lenormand. So here we have another one of my favorites, which is the Anna K. Lenormand. This one actually comes with a couple extra cards, which we'll take a look at here in a minute. The backs are really cool. I do want to get this deck edged, but I just absolutely love the artwork on this deck. I am a huge fan of the Anna K Tarot, so it wasn't a big surprise to me that I was really gonna love this deck as well. It's just a great all-purpose deck. The images are really beautiful and very expressive, and I really like the way the concepts and the cards are depicted. So it's just, yeah, one of my favorites for sure. I have a couple of different lily cards, so there's one of them. And then we have the other lily card here. So we have kind of the white lily and the orange lily. We have 2 man and woman cards, and then there's 2 other man and woman cards in this deck. So we have kind of like we do with the white and the orange lily, we kind of have the winter scene and the summer scene, I guess. And it did also come with an extra card, which I'm not entirely sure what the purpose of this card is, but I do keep it in the deck because I do keep it with the deck just so that I can hang on to it because it's a cute card. I like it. So anyway, that is one of my favorites to be sure. So that is another one of my favorite decks to be sure. That is the Anna K Lenormand. So now in really no particular order, because I can't exactly remember when I bought each of the following decks, they were all in a relatively close time frame. So this is my Bluebird Lenormand. And I don't believe that I've actually used this one yet. It's just one that I like to have on hand. What I really like about this Lenormand is that it has these little key phrases in here. The images are very recognizable. The playing card association is a little large for my taste that I found, but I really like the vintage style of the artwork. And again, I like the little sayings on the side here. And it's a deck that I kind of purchased just to have those sayings that I thought maybe might help me with my learning. So here's the backs of them. They are really cute. And I think that this is just a relatively inexpensive deck. It's a great one to get a hold of. And I do think it's really beautiful and I can't wait to work with it. So that is the Bluebird Lenormand. So the next Lenormand deck in my collection is the Rana George Lenormand. And this one, I do actually know, this one was the most recent one that I've purchased. And again, it's such a stunning little Lenormand. It has these gold accents, which generally are not my favorite, but it really kind of works for this deck. And even though there's a lot going on, I mean, we have the pillars on the side, we have the playing card association, we have the numbers, and we have a symbol up here, which I haven't read the book to know what that is. And the image here, as you can see, it's still in order. I haven't read with it yet, but I really do like it. And one of the things that I thought was really cool about this deck is that when you lay the cards together, the cards make the columns complete, which I thought was really cool and just might look really interesting in readings. I love the vibrant colors. I do love that gold foil on there. I think that's really cool. And the artwork is just stunning. One of the reasons that I got this one is because I did buy the Rana George Lenormand book. And I do plan on working with that. This one does have a few extra cards, which I'm not entirely sure what those are yet because, again, like I said, I haven't read the book. But it's a beautiful little Lenormand. The back is stunning. It does have the gold foiling on the back. There's a copyright as per US Games on the back, but it is fairly unintrusive in terms of, copyright. So cute little Lenormand. I really like the aesthetics of it. I think it looks really cool. I mean, when you lay them down together, like I kind of showed you earlier, but they make this cool little like connected columns with the frames looking through. And I just think that's really cool. I think that just adds a whole nother layer aesthetically to your reading. So I'm really excited to play with this one. But like I said, it is the newest to my collection, so I haven't actually done any readings with it. So that is the Rana George Lenormand. The next Lenormand deck in my collection is the Scrying Ink Lenormand. Again, it comes in a box as well. And this one is available. I purchased this off of Make Playing Cards. I will leave links to all the decks in the description box below. This is a companion to the Hedge Witch and the Line Strider, and then of course the new, it's by the same author, and this is why I need to take it out of the box. Okay, so I had to totally pry that open. This is one of the decks that I will not be keeping it in the box. I just haven't, as you'll be able to see, it's still in order. This one is also a fairly new one to my collection. So it just has that same beautiful artwork that we see in like the Line Strider, and I have the Line Strider and the Hedge Witch Oracle, so I think that it's just going to be beautiful with those. And I just love the color palette of this. I love the simple images. Some of them are not quite as, if they didn't have the keywords on them, wouldn't quite be as noticeable, I think, when you're just scanning. But for the most part, I think they really do work. And there's the keywords at the top, so you don't really have to worry about that. But it's just a gorgeous Lenormand. I love all the texture. I love the color, the simple line work with that splash of color. I think it's just beautiful. Yeah, it's just a gorgeous little deck. I'm really excited to work with this one as well. Here's the backs, which is this beautiful marbling, and I think it's just really pretty. So that's another one that I'm excited to work with. Kind of feels maybe like it might be more of a spring deck, but we shall see. So that is the Scrying Ink Lenormand. The next deck in my collection is my Celtic Lenormand. This one does have extra cards, which I just accidentally pulled out. I think maybe... Okay, so this deck actually came with quite a few extra cards. We have an extra man and a woman, an extra cat to use in place of the dog. We have a male and a female child, and we have a couple of different options for birds. We have owls, we have chickens. There's a couple different options for snakes and trees. I think the rider is the only, no, maybe there is another rider. We shall see. I accidentally wasn't paying attention, so I've been playing with making some Lenormand bags where it has an extra, let's see if I can pull it in. Can you even see? It's probably going to be easier to see on my bag, on my deck. But can you see in here, there's an extra pocket, and these hold the extra cards because I don't want to keep the big boxes, so I've made been practicing making little bags with the extra pocket for the extra cards. So here is the little deck, and this one has that beautiful Will Worthington artwork. There is no titles on this deck, but we definitely have the playing card association and the numbers. So for me, this is a good one because it's helping me to learn the titles just by sight without having them on the cards, you know, to know 13 is the child, you know, 26 is the book. So, oh, there is two writers. See, there's a man and a woman. That's why that was in there, because I had pulled this one out. Anyway, love the tree. It's just, you know, full of gorgeous artwork. This one I've definitely done work with for an entire month, and I've used it for other readings. This is the only card that really kind of gave me pause because this is the star card, and the star is just this little bitty thing right there, but it does work, and it's kind of the only one that really looks like that. So I think it works because it kind of does its own thing in comparison to the rest of them. But just, yeah, a stunning deck. I love the snake with the shedding the skin for transformation. I think that's beautiful. But yeah, wonderful reader. Here is the lovely backs. Again, it's just typical Lenormand size. And this one is just, you know, a fantastic deck that I think works quite well for a beginner. The book that comes with it, I probably should have showed you guys the, I do have the little Rana George Lenormand as well. This is a wonderful little book, but I also have the bigger one. And this is the book that comes with the Celtic Lenormand, and there is so much information in this book. I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen it and heard about it before, but we have, you know, the keywords for every card. We have the playing card association, description, the meaning, spiritual readings, dark and light, spell use, affirmation, and deity. So there is just so much information packed in this little book. This is a fabulous read, and if you're learning Lenormand, I definitely recommend this little book. and this little deck, because it is kind of a great beginner's primer. And this is kind of the deck that I started with, although I do have the 1889 and I did actually work with that for a month. I didn't really dive deep into learning Lenormand until I picked up this deck and I read through this book, and then I also read through, I've been working through the Caitlin Matthews Lenormand book, which we'll look at here at the end. So wonderful little primer, getting started with Lenormand deck. I highly recommend it for that. Lots of options in terms of the cards, so you can swap out things that work for you, and has a great little guidebook. So that is the Celtic Lenormand. So the next deck in my Lenormand collection is my Seeker's Lenormand. And this one's still in its little box too. This is the companion to the Earthbound Oracle, and I think my candle just went out. And should probably put that away. This is the companion to the Earthbound Oracle and the Wooden Tarot, which are two of my favorite decks. I love this Lenormand. I knew that I was going to love it as soon as I started. Like, look at that writer. That's like my favorite writer. So cute. I knew as soon as I started learning Lenormand that this was going to be a deck that I definitely needed to have. I absolutely adore the artwork, and these are among some of my favorite decks. And yeah, it's a beautiful reader. The images are easy to understand. You know, there's no guessing about what things are, but it definitely has that sort of kind of surreal imagery that we see in the Skull Garden artwork, which I think is just absolutely beautiful. And yeah, just one of my favorite Lenormands. There's the backs of them, and of course they work beautifully with the companion Oracle and the Tarot decks. So one of my favorites for sure, that is the Seeker's Lenormand. So the next deck in my collection is my Fairytale Lenormand, and this is one of the two Lenormands that I have in a little case. And this has the artwork by Lisa Hunt, which I absolutely adore, and is written by Arwen Lynch. This is just a fantastic little deck. I have not actually worked with this deck yet because I've kind of been saving it for when I do some deeper Fairytale work. It comes with a lovely little book. Just has the basic information that you need, so it's perfect. And this one just has the cutest artwork. I love Lisa Hunt's artwork, so this one was like a no-brainer for me. It is so gorgeous. It is so detailed. I just absolutely love it. It definitely has a fairy tale storybook quality to it, which I think is just absolutely wonderful. It's, you know, your typical great Lenormand size. I love that the titles are very clear down here. The playing card association is clear, and then we have the number up in the corner. And I think it works wonderfully. This one I'm really excited to jump into. We have a couple of different options in terms of, you know, our different male and female cards, which is always lovely. I love this lilies. This to me is a wonderful lilies. We hardly ever see those in a Lenormand deck. And the sun, we have like the, you know, the Sleeping Beauty, and the moon. We have the Cinderella with the pumpkin. It's just, you know, it's just a beautiful Lenormand. This one I'm really excited to dig into and work. Here's the beautiful box. It has the key, which is really similar to the key that we have on the Lisa Hunt's Fairytale Tarot. So I am really excited to work with those two together. So I've kind of been waiting for this one for when I get a little bit more confident with my Tarot Lenormand pairings. And then this one will definitely be making its way into my rotation with that, because it's just so cute and I love it. I love the fairytale vibe. So that one is the Fairytale Lenormand. So the next deck in my collection, and I think I said the Rana George Lenormand was my most recent purchase, but I forgot. This is actually my most recent purchase. This is the White Mojo Lenormand, and it comes in this nice little comes in this nice little plastic printer studio box here, and I will probably make a bag for it at some point, but for right now, I mean, this works. This just has, I just love the aesthetic of this deck. The cardstock is actually really nice too. It has gorgeous little title cards. I mean, look how pretty those are. I love those. Oh, here's the beautiful backs. I think those are absolutely gorgeous too. And it has a bit of a Tarot de Marseille feel to me, and I really like that about it, and I think it would pair beautifully with my Marseille decks. The playing card association, I do have to say, is not my favorite because it kind of really pops you out of that aesthetic. It's very clip arty, if that's not really a word, but it very much looks like clip art where we have these gorgeous images. This is one of my favorites. Oh, look how beautiful that is. We have this beautiful artwork and then this clip art, you know, card stuck on the bottom. The numbers I think are wonderful and really work well with this deck, but it's just the playing card association that kind of throws me a little bit. I mean, look how beautiful. So yeah, just a gorgeous deck. I love the aesthetic of it. I love the old world feel. I love the kind of muted color palette, and I just think that it would go so well with so many of my kind of antique looking decks or my kind of old school decks. It does have extra cards that I have not. It did come with a little book, so I'll see if I can get out here in a second. So it did also come with a little book here, and so it talks about the different cards, and there's not a lot in here, but you know, it's enough. But it does talk about the extra cards, which is nice. There's a little bit about how to read the cards, some spreads. So great little guidebook to go along with this little deck, and I actually was kind of pleasantly surprised that it had such a nice little guidebook. But it's just such a stunning Lenormand, and I have to thank Denise from Minty Green Mama she showed this on her channel, and I saw it and I was like, oh, it's stunning. I need to have that. I think it's just beautiful. And I think it's going to go, like I said, really well with a lot of my kind of medieval style decks. And that's kind of what I have purchased it for and what I'm hoping to do with it. So that is the White Mojo Lenormand. So the last deck that I have to share with you is really my personal favorite because it is a deck that I actually created. And this is the Rusted Lenormand. I do have, this is where I started playing with the 2 pouches, if you can see here, because I do have quite a few extra cards with this deck. And I wanted to be able to keep those separate so I could only pull them in as I need them, and then the main cards sit here. So, you know, that was just me playing with my bags. So here is the title card that comes with the deck. I probably should have put the extra cards in together so we could see them. Okay, so now that I've put them all back in order, this is the title card that comes with it. It is just a bridge size Lenormand. Here is the backs, which have this rusted door image on them, and of course the lock on the title card. So here we have the writer, and I don't know if it'll pick up on camera, but as I mentioned in the 1889 Lenormand, there is a rust texture around all of the cards. It's unique to each card, but every card has a rusted texture to it that I've added in as I've worked to create these images. We have the playing card association down here in the corner, which hopefully is very unintrusive for people, the number at the top, and the title. So here's the writer, whoops, the clover, the ship, the house, the tree, the clouds, the snake, the coffin, the bouquet, the scissors, the broom, the birds, the child, the fox, the bear. This is one of my favorites in the deck. Can you have favorites in your own decks? They're all my favorites, but these two in particular, the bear and the star, I think those are my 2 favorite cards in the whole deck. So here's the stars, the stork, the dog, the tower, the garden, the mountain, the paths or crossroads, the mice, a heart, ring, book, letter, partner. So rather than doing man-woman cards, what I chose to do was a partner and a significator in place of each of those. So we have the partner and the significator, and I guess not always, and the seeker and the significator. So that way you can choose to use either, you know, grab too many. That way you could choose to use partner and seeker. So seeker would be you, partner would be whoever else you are doing a reading about or want to have included, and then the significator can just be whoever it is that you deem it to be. So I didn't want to include gender specific cards, so that was the way that I worked around that one. So here we have the lily, the sun, the moon, the key, the fish, the anchor, and the cross. So hopefully that rusted texture will pick up on camera, but if not, oh, and then, you know, the end card. So that is a look at the Lenormand that I created, and I didn't exactly create this to be a deck for sale. What I created it for was as a deck to learn from, seeking out imagery that spoke to the energy of the cards, that spoke to the meaning behind the cards, you know, determining how I would want to handle, you know, the man, woman, the seeker, the partner, the significator cards, finding images that really spoke to me. And several of these have gone through several variations. I actually have multiple versions of this deck now, but this is the version that I finally settled on. I will go ahead and put this deck up for sale. It'll be available from Make Playing Cards, which is where I ordered these from. And it'll be there if anybody wants it. It's just, you know, I created it as a way to learn, as a tool. And, you know, if it's something that speaks to you and you'd like to work with it as well, it's available up there for you to go ahead and get your copy of, so that you can start working with it. I love the color palette. I mean, of course I'm gonna love it. I made it, but it was a wonderful experience learning the cards in this way, because I was able to really sit with the cards, the meanings and the associations, and find things that really resonated for me, and that really helped me to make the connection. So that is a look at all of the cards in all of the decks in my Lenormand collection, including the one that I created myself. So I thought we'd just wrap this up. We'll take a look at a couple of the books that I have. So as far as the books that I have been using as learning resources, I had already mentioned the Celtic Lenormand guidebook, the book that comes with the deck. This is a fantastic book, and I highly recommend it. I have read it cover to cover, and I do still consult it from time to time. Even when I'm working with other decks, it still works beautifully. So I definitely recommend that little guidebook, and actually as a really great resource for learning Lenormand. The first book that I started with was the Complete Lenormand Oracle Handbook by Caitlin Matthews, and this is a book that I've been working my way through. It has wonderful exercises, so you can use this as a workbook, and that is really how I've been using it, just going through one section at a time, one exercise at a time, and working my way through this entire book. And so it's been really helpful and really instrumental to how I've been reading. I did also pick up the Rana George book, The Essential Lenormand. And I hear, while I haven't started this one, that this is a fantastic book as well. And I do hear that some of the associations are a little bit different than in the Caitlin Matthews book. So I'm really kind of excited to check that out. There is a lot of information about the different cards and just the different associations, the different meanings that there can be around them. And I think that is really interesting. So I'm looking forward to reading that, to really dive deeper into the individual cards. I think that's going to be a wonderful book for that. Although, like I've said, I have not started this one, so that's going to be my next up as I'm working my way to finishing up this one. And this one I just kind of tend to keep on hand because it's a quick, easy resource to grab, and it's just kind of gets you right where you need to be. So I highly recommend it. So that was a look at the Lenormand decks in my collection, the books that I have been using as my resources and my guides as I've been learning Lenormand, and of course the deck that I created, which is available for anyone who might be interested. So I hope you enjoyed this look at my Lenormand collection, and I look forward to seeing you again soon for more creative tarot for an inspired life.